The show is made possible in part by its supporting sponsors: Blue Water Power Group of Companies, Joe's Discount Tire, and AskGuy.ca. Here we are at the ISO Bar in downtown Sarnia. Thanks to them for allowing us this space. And this young gentleman right here, John Tiernay, thanks so much for coming. Because you come in from, where are you, Oil Springs or something?
Just south of Oil Springs.
Yeah, okay. I was out there yesterday. We went for a motorcycle ride out that way. And
yeah, I'm out in the country.
Yeah. Have you always been out there?
1975 I moved out there.
Oh, wow.
Came to Sarnia in 73, lived in Sarnia proper for 2 years, and then decided to move out
Came
there.
to Sarnia, so where did you come from?
I was at University of Waterloo prior to that. Yeah, my home at that time was Alliston, Ontario.
Alliston?
Where my family were living.
Where's that? I don't...
just, let's see, southeast of Barrie.
Oh, well, okay.
You know, south of Barrie.
Okay.
Off of the 401.
What brought you here?
To Sarnia?
Yeah.
I came to work for Dow Chemical.
Yeah.
I was doing a master's degree at University of Waterloo, and a friend of mine who had also been in my class said, "Hey, they're hiring at Dow. You interested?" Because I came out just as the job market went into a bit of a slump.
Yeah.
So I hadn't finished my degree, and my prof wasn't really happy that I was going to leave. But I promise you, I will finish it.
Okay.
And I did finish it.
You did?
Well, I drove back and forth from Sarnia to Waterloo in the middle of winter several times.
You were committed.
To get it done. Anyway, yeah, so I came down and got the job at Dow, and then haven't left.
And that was in 73, you said you started at Dow? Or?
Yeah.
So that was just after the big strike that happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. As a matter of
72?
fact, I came in to that plant just after the big strike.
Yeah.
And people were a little agitated still.
Yeah.
And I was a new kid on the block, and I can remember them playing some good tricks on me. I remember being in an instrument house, which is like a metal shack, and all of a sudden, whack! Scream, big noise, and I'm jumping out of my skin thinking there's an explosion. They're out there with a monkey wrench, and they open the door, and big smile.
New kid on the block, right? Yeah. I think I know you worked with my dad, but I don't think I started at Dow, because he left just before the big strike. Actually.
I met your dad at Union Carbide.
Yeah, Union Carbide.
I stayed with Dow for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then actually one of the guys I worked with came in one day and said, "Hey, I see a job here that looks like it's made to measure for you." Was an analytical specialist.
Oh, yeah?
And I don't think I thought I would go and check it out, but I did. Next thing I know, I'm flying to Montreal for an interview, and I got the job. My boss wasn't really too happy at that time, because he had plans for me, but
are you analytical? Well. Are you very analytical?
I studied chemistry, analytical chemistry.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm kind of on the science side of things. I like to plan things out and think about them, and it's my approach. Not necessarily in music, but I'm a fairly structured individual.
Well, when you set up your equipment and everything, you've got it.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched it. You've got it laid out a certain way, and it's got to go this way, and then the mic cord, and then everything else.
Part of that is just having something you can reproduce quickly.
Right.
Like if you change it around all the time, say, "Oh, how did I do this last time?" And when you play as many gigs as we have over the years, it makes sense to have things that are work, and everything goes where it belongs. Yeah. And then when you're packing up.
For sure, right? System oriented. I remember my days as a DJ. I always had.
Oh, yeah.
And people would say, "Can I help you?" And I appreciate it, but it goes a certain way.
Been there the same way, yeah.
Right?
Even when Terry and I say, thanks for the offer, but we really know where things go.
Yeah.
And it's not just that you'd like to help, and we do appreciate your offer.
And if anybody's going to drop something, it might as well be me.
Exactly. And that has happened. Yeah.
Right, for sure. Yeah. When did music first come into your life?
Well, when I was a young teenager, my dad My dad was in the Navy and learned how to play the accordion, and then when he came back from the war, learned how to play the piano, all self-taught.
Is that right?
And he was a lefty, so he was left-handed.
Oh, yeah.
He had a little family band back in, we were in Berks Falls at that point. That's about 50 miles south of North Bay.
Okay.
And nice little town. He was station agent. He learned telegraph in the Navy, so he had a ready-made job to work on the station because they all communicated with telegraph at the time. Right. So he would move from place to place, bid on another job, and we ended up in Alliston. And he had a family band. My uncle was in it from South River, which is a little north of there, and several people that were not family members. But he always said to me, when you get old enough, you learn how to play that guitar, you can get in a band. And of course, I could think of money, all right.
Right, yeah, I'm going to be a rich rock star.
Yeah, so that's how it all started, and played the kind of music that my dad grew up with, and war tunes, and it was a dance band, so it was really, and my dad was a real good sense of rhythm, so like he sort of taught me the basics of, make sure we got a good beat going,
right,
so people will enjoy dancing to it. So.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I moved on. When I left to go to university, I have 7 brothers and a sister.
Oh, wow.
They all started filling in the slots.
Yeah.
So at one point I played guitar, another time I played bass. A couple of brothers took over on drums and learned bass. So yeah, he had a ready-made band for many years.
Wow.
And then I went off to Waterloo. He called me a couple of times, said, "Can you come home and play? We got a gig such and such, and we really need you." I said, "Okay, I'll come down and play."
Right.
Yeah, so that was my beginning. My first guitar I bought from Simpson Sears. You remember those days when Simpson Sears?
I remember Mom taking me shopping.
Yeah.
And that was, you went to Simpson's and you went to Kmart and Mocha. That's when you went to all the different places.
Yeah, I bought it for, I think it was $99.99.
Like, did you order that out of a catalog?
Yeah. It was a little harmony guitar and a small amp. I think at the day, it was probably the, what did they call that? The reverb. A small amp with reverb.
Oh, yeah.
And then later on, a couple of years later, I expanded. I bought the twin 12 version of it.
Yeah.
It's kept the same guitar. Unfortunately, the guitar has left me. It got passed along to some of my brothers, and nobody remembers what happened to it. I suspect it got broken.
Right.
It was a semi-hollow electric, not an expensive guitar by any means. But the amplifier, I still have it, and I think I've got one of the only ones left in North America. I've been checking around on Reverb and those places.
Trying to find it.
There's nobody's got the twin 12.
Hang on to that, right?
Yeah, I've given it to my son. I said, "It's yours. You can keep it as a keepsake. You can sell it. Do what you want with it.
Right.
It's no longer of value."
So he plays too, then, does he?
Yeah, he just plays for himself, just like I started, kind of fooling around.
So you're self-taught?
I took some lessons on, I had a music teacher in Berks Falls, a German fellow, Mr. Peterson, and he wanted me to play in the junior orchestra because he'd been teaching me guitar, and we're going by the the standard process where you learn the lesson, all the conservatory basically, right? So I can grade 1, 2, 3, and go into these little things and play a song and get rated. And he said, "I'll tell you what," he said. He knew that I had a good ear. And he could tell where I was in pitch and stuff like that. So he said, "I'll give you a violin, and I will not charge you for your guitar lessons if you'll play in the junior orchestra."
Really?
So I ended up being third violin in the junior orchestra.
Sounds like a win-win, really.
It was, and I enjoyed the orchestra because it would have been the kind of stuff people play here, like conservatory, like symphony type stuff. It was fun. It was an interesting sideline, but of course I moved on to high school, and eventually I went to high school. My grade 13, which was still in play.
Oh yeah,
days,
grade 13.
I went to North Bay for that year because they didn't have all the courses that I needed to get into a science program in Berks Falls.
Yeah.
And I lived with my grandparents for a year, which was an interesting episode too.
Why was that?
Well, just because they were, quite elderly. My grandfather was a real character, really mechanically minded, had motorcycles and things, got me interested in motorcycles.
Oh, yeah,
That's where I got me interested in motorcycles.
Right.
He had an old Indian out back. I wish I'd have known what it was worth. I could have had that. He says, "You're welcome to take that bike." And I thought, "Ooh, I don't want that piece of junk." I want a Honda.
Indians are beautiful motorcycles.
I want a Honda.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was the big deal at the time.
Yeah.
So I ended up with a Bridgestone 50. That was my first bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you've been riding for a long time, I know.
And, that was my first bike. Then I went off to school and didn't have anything. And when I came back to Sarnia and was working that's when I went to Union Carbide, a fellow that worked there had a bike for sale. It was a Yamaha 400, RD 400.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "Hey, you want to come see this bike?" And so I bought it from him, included a helmet and a few other things, and started there. And then I moved along. I haven't had a lot of bikes. I had maybe that one. Then I had a Honda 500 twin. It was the Silver Wing, they called it.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday.
And then I had my Yamaha Venture. First year, 1984, had it for 20 years.
Wow.
Had over 400,000 kilometers on it, yeah.
Yeah, you've done a lot of traveling too. I mean, you got a Honda Goldwing now.
Yeah.
And it's, well, Honda Goldwing Cadillac. Push the button, tell it where to go, and it'll drive you there.
Hands-free.
You've got all
and
the
it backs
toys.
up too.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. We were just talking about the Silver Wings the other day, Jennifer and I, and we were like, wow, those are, my boy has a PC 800, an old 94,
Okay, yeah.
and he likes that style. He's not into the
No, I never was
and
into
he just likes it comfortable.
Yeah. I have nothing against any motorcycle, really. It's all preference, you know. I have, most of my friends are Harley riders.
Yeah.
And
I'm a Kawasaki guy.
And they give me, gears, and I
Oh,
give
yeah,
them the
yeah,
gears.
yeah.
But when it comes to riding, we all have a great time.
Well, we're all on two wheels, right?
Yeah.
We got to be careful out there.
My wife's on three-wheeler now. She's gone to a Spider.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a bad accident some years ago, and her knee was not supporting her very well. And we went on a few trips with her Suzuki. She had a Suzuki 800, the Volusia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we'd get someplace, and she'd stop, and down she'd go. And,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I said, we got to stop doing this before you hurt yourself.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be safe.
So she likes the Spider.
You've done lots of traveling though with that, but I mean, like you go down to Florida every year, don't you?
I have been going, not as much as I used to. I had a friend of mine, Gar Smith, who you might have known. He's since passed away. Him and I would go once a summer somewhere, and I mean, I was still single at that time.
Right.
Marriage had broken up, so I was on my own. And we would head to all over the States, and he knew roads like I just followed.
Right.
I'm a follower.
You lead,
you just take me where you want to go.
Right. Those are the best ones though.
Yeah, because I got to be honest with you, I'm terrible with directions.
Yeah, me too.
Even today, trying to find this place, I'm like, God.
I get past Kamlaki and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, and Gar I had this like almost, I would say, photographic memory.
Just built right in.
Didn't matter where we went in the States, and it was always in the States. We'd go down to the East Coast, down to and he was a BMW guy.
Oh yeah.
So he'd take me to all these BMW rallies.
Oh.
And it didn't matter if you're a BMW owner or not, right? So
You just went.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah.
Lots of travel. Now I just go down to, if I go down to Florida, I usually go to Bike Week, but I fly down, and a friend who I met there years ago, now lives there, came from Texas, and he invites me to stay with him, and we find a bike for me to ride, and
oh yeah, you can rent one and
we ride for do like
that's cool.
700 miles or something.
I've never
like
been
that.
down to a bike week yet. That's a lot of bikes.
It's kind of like Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
just on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Did you go to Dover this year?
No, I didn't make it. I was playing that weekend.
Oh, right. I think I came and saw. Yeah, I think we saw you that.
Yeah, you did. It was up at
Upper
Wash.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I didn't go this year. It was packed too.
I've gone many times, but
I've been once.
It loses its attraction for me. I mean, I'm not in the buying mode anymore as far as toys or trinkets because I'm trying to get rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah, right. I hear you. Well, I think if I was going to go, there's another one next year, June, right? And I think I would stay the whole weekend if I can book something now and stay the whole weekend.
We did that once. We rented a B&B, 4 of us, and it's the only one I can remember where it rained all weekend.
Oh, is that right? That sucks.
It sucked big time. We ended up in a tent where water was dripping down beside us. Yeah, it was a big disappointment because we thought, okay, this is perfect. We're going to stay for the weekend and really make it a party.
Have some fun.
Anyway,
what is the music business? Like you've been doing that a long time now.
Yeah.
What's changed about it?
Not much. That's the problem, especially on the money side of things.
Yeah.
I started playing in Sarnia. Like I had long hiatus. I came from university. I didn't even own a guitar. Literally came to went out to the farm, and was working at Union Carbide. And a woman in the office that I worked with told me that her husband, who had been playing in this band, had cut his thumb off at home on a table saw. And she knew these guys, and they were really looking for someone who could fill his boots, someone who could sing and play. And I guess I had spoken to her about my family's history and what I had done. Because at that time I wasn't playing at all.
Right.
I hadn't picked up a guitar, and honestly, didn't even miss it.
You weren't
looking. Surprising. Like like, why am I not even, attached to this anymore? So I sat in for a little rehearsal with them, had to borrow a guitar to do it. And I said, yeah, we think you'd work. So it was called Hickory Wind.
Hickory Wind, okay.
Out of Petrolia.
Yeah.
Steel guitar player, bass player, drummer, and myself. And I'm a rhythm player.
Yeah.
I'll swear that I'm not a lead player, but I had to learn to do some leads.
Is that right?
Fortunately, the steel player, who was self-taught, could do anything.
Yeah.
So I said, Dave, you take the leads. I'll do the odd intro and thing like that where it makes sense, but basically you've got, when it comes to a solo time, you're the guy.
You're the guy, yeah.
And he was good at it, so yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then about 1983, so we were Hickory Wind. 1983, things were really getting slow, especially for country, because we were all country with a name like Hickory Wind.
Right, right.
And there was some good country music around. Exile, and a lot of Alabama was popular.
Yeah.
And we were always strong on vocals, which was one of our strengths.
Yeah.
All except for Dave, 3 of us could sing, so we did a lot of 3-part harmony right off the top. And we said, well, maybe we need to change our repertoire so that we're more versatile.
Got to adapt.
Yeah, and if we do that, we need another name. So, over the course of, I don't know, I forget how long it took, but maybe several weeks, we had several names, and Borderline was one that was presented and seemed to stick, so we went with it.
Yeah.
And then we started pushing ourselves into other venues and doing other types of music. So that was 1983.
Yeah.
Last year was the 40th anniversary.
I know, right? I was adding that up in my head as you were talking. And I was like,
yeah,
wow.
and I kind of totally missed it. I mean, I'm not much to nostalgia that way. It's just like, holy crap, it's been 40 years.
Yeah. And you've got you're an original, and then
Bruce Charlton was the last original. He played drums, but he's had issues and just couldn't be coming out as often as we were.
Yeah.
I've invited him to come, and he sat in a few times, just to get in the saddle again. But we basically went to a trio for quite a while.
Yeah, Border Light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was our, we thought, okay, how are we going to distinguish ourselves between, the full 4-piece? Because I didn't want to burn bridges with Bruce and I, because he's still a member of the band at that time, but we didn't have many jobs for him. So I said, well, rather than call it Borderline, I just want to call it Border Light. And so Border Light Trio was, since we've all kind of passed that now and everything's settled out, we've said, look, let's just go back to Borderline.
Just Borderline.
It's confusing people.
Are
you Border Light or Borderline? Well, we're Borderline. Either there's 1, 2, 3, or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Just use the same name. And
you just let people know that you're getting a 3-piece tonight, not a 4.
When we book ourselves, we say, you want the 3-piece, you want the 4-piece, and it usually depends on the price. But you asked the state of the music.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of opportunities to play.
Yeah.
And that's good, but on the side of in terms of compensation, if you're in it to live by, forget it.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
Well,
for me.
you can be. You got to move. You can't just stay here. You got to move around.
There are people who are
around.
full time, and you watch what they're doing. They're playing almost every night of the week.
Yep.
But that's their love, and that's great, and I give them credit for it because it's not something I would try.
No.
I don't have that guts for it, I guess, or the talent, because I'm not a soloist.
Right.
You take a guy like Jeff Black, he can sit in with just about anybody.
He read my mind. I was like, Jeff Black, he can do it all.
He's come and played with us, and you'd think he played with us forever.
Yeah. And a solo act is tough because you're as a band you're engaging the crowd, but as a band you can play off each other. You can take a little break of the fun and let Dean have it, and then but solo it's all you, and that's
I would find solo work to be really isolating, because I do like playing with other guys, girls, whatever, because there is that magic between
100%.
players, and sometimes it's just excellent, other times it crashes, but you say, okay, well, we tried something.
Yeah, well, you guys had a lot. Well, let's say we were at Ipperwash Beach, and the lead fella there,
Bruce Dean.
Yeah, and then so there's Bruce and who are the other fellows?
Don Arsenault plays bass.
Yeah.
And he's a good singer as well. So Don and I do all the singing. And then Derek Fulton is a neighbor of mine who I accidentally met a few years ago at a party. Found out he played drums. And I said, hey, if you're ever interested in coming out and sitting in, and I got a cancellation one night. Bruce couldn't make it. This was going back before we actually, made the changes, which just occurred naturally.
Right.
Derek came out and played, and he had an electronic drum kit at that time, and the damn thing was triggering automatically, so it was going, what's going on? He says, oh, I don't know. This drum, the snare drum was triggering without him hitting it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he just lives around the corner from me. Literally a quarter mile out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Don Euphemia town. Well, he's in Enniskillen. I'm in Don Euphemia.
Right.
But it's like one road south of me. I'm one road south of him. Anyway.
But you guys were funny. Like, you even look at like, my son and his girlfriend were with us, and they're 24, right?
Yeah.
There were some jokes they were like, huh? But then there was other jokes like my son was like, that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we try to kibitz with the crowd as much as possible, and
you're not shy asking for tips.
Oh no,
we take requests. Just write it down on the back of a $20 bill and set it right there.
Yeah, that's one of my lines. I said, yeah, if you write it on the back of a 20, we're sure to know it.
Right. We'll fake it even. If
we'll fake it. Yeah. If we don't know it, we'll make it up.
So my wife Jennifer, like you've played at some of her family events, and it's got to be fun for you to have people come up to you. I'm sure they do, and say, "Oh, you played at my."
That happened just recently. Yeah. I found out that I played for a couple's wedding that I hadn't even remembered.
Wow, you played our wedding.
When you go back 40 years, my memory's not that great.
Well, okay, all right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the calendar's gone.
These are weddings that happened a long time ago, and I said to this person at the time, I said, you know what? I was reminded some time ago that a few of the weddings that we played for, the folks are still not together. Are you guys still together?
Yeah. How you doing? Dare I ask?
So yeah, we're still all right. I got one on the positive line.
Right. Yeah. Do you still do weddings and stuff like that? Or
weddings, anniversaries, private parties.
Yeah. You guys are in demand. Like, I mean, you're pretty much booked, aren't you?
Well, we have. The last few years have been phenomenal, and I'm not sure why, but I hope it has something to do with our quality. But we did 103 gigs 2 years ago. We did 104 last year.
That's positive.
Yeah, and I'm at 72 right now, 73 right now for this year. And there might be a few more coming, but I think it'll be under 100. But that's a lot of playing.
It sure is. Yeah. A lot of commitment.
Fortunately, I'm retired. Bruce Dean is, and Don semi-retired. Yeah. Derek's working, but he's able to, and he's the youngest guy in the group, so he's able to manage getting around.
So does he do all the lifting?
No. Actually, we have worked out a fairly decent plan about everybody contributing, because the gig starts at a point and the gig ends at a point.
That's right.
Hopefully you stick around, you show up on time, and you leave when everything's done.
Yeah.
So.
You don't know why. Like you sort of said in there, you're like, I'm not sure why we're booked, but you must know that. I mean, I think it's the selection of music that you choose. Your eclectic group, so you can play different crowds. I think a lot of bands are like set to, that's our demographic.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, I'd like to think that we are versatile enough to cover off a lot, but we're not. Certainly not hard rock. So that's not an age group we would appeal to.
No.
But below that, even young folks still enjoy some Beatles and things like that. Yeah. Surprisingly, right?
Yeah.
So we can go back to. We have a complete '60s act if we want to.
Yeah. I love it when you guys do Kansas City.
Yeah, we got some '70s, and we're pushing into like some pop.
Yep.
I do some Ed Sheeran as well. Mm-hmm. And always listening to stuff that say, hey, you know what, that song could be adapted to us to give us something a little different, depending on where you are. Some venues, it's great to have some kind of stuff you can throw out that they're not expecting.
Yep.
So we do some Eric Clapton, some reggae. We're actually working on quite a bit of reggae because it seems to go really well at dances.
Yeah, dances. I was going to say.
And that's primarily what we like to do is play for dance groups, but it doesn't always happen. But
is the Navy Club still doing their thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Things have slowed down since COVID. A lot of people stopped coming out for one reason or another. When you get crowds like that, typically older, And if someone in that group passes away, often a whole bunch of them fall out.
Right.
Because it's a loss of a.
It was their social night with
the social
friend.
network.
Yeah, right.
So I find that's, but they're holding their own.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not the only ones that are struggling to have people in seats. I know.
Mm-hmm.
With the economy as tight as it is, for some folks, right?
Yeah. Well, I accept that. Yes, I mean, I've always found. I mean, coming from the bar business world too, it was like, but people always found money for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
They always found money for entertainment. Now, and you know that might decrease a little or whatever, but it always seems to be there because people need that fantasy land, or you know, that you as an entertainer create. When they walk through that door, they leave their troubles there and come in and see you guys, and you guys are just fun. Like I don't know how else to. When somebody says to me, "Oh, a band for this," I go, borderline. Why? Because they're fun. And that's
well, we do try to mix it up, and when we take a break, I know I automatically go out and talk to people.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people in the crowd that know me, and I know them. Unfortunately, I don't always remember their names because you see them in so many different places, right?
You're talking to
in
the
fact,
choir.
Today coming over here, I met a woman who said, "John, how are you?"
Yeah.
And I'm looking. I said, "I know she follows the band. I couldn't think of her name."
Right.
It's embarrassing. But I'm always going back and saying, where do I know this person from? Well, you know, in this case, I recognize her face. Sometimes, it's a Lions Club event, you know, some other event that I've attended, because I run into so many people, and then you're trying to put faces with names.
So I'll tell you a little secret, and this will be kind of funny, because if I've ever done it to anybody watching, when Jennifer's with me, and we're talking to somebody, and I don't introduce them within 20 seconds, she is supposed to go, and by the way, haha, I'm Jennifer. And then you'll say, oh yes, I'm John. And she says, oh, he forgets to say it all the time. And then I hear your name and I go, yeah, John, how you doing?
It's a good little fallback.
It's tough though, right? You know,
more recently I've decided to just admit that I've forgotten your name.
Yeah.
And people are very good about it. Say, don't worry about it.
I know I've seen you and appreciate you. What's your name? Yeah. I think most people appreciate we just feel stupid or silly or something.
But it's impossible to remember all those names.
Apparently there's memory tricks, but I'm not into learning all that stuff.
The trouble with me is I don't have the memory to remember the memory trick.
Yeah, I hear you. Right? So. Is there anybody in particular that you've played with that, and not to take away from anybody you played with, but is there anybody in particular that you've played with that really stood out to you? Like you were like, wow, I played with that person and that was amazing.
Yeah, a couple of steel guitar players I played with in the past.
Yeah.
They're just excellent. They just, you know, that instrument just blows my mind, and it's nothing I could ever try to touch. One of them was Dave Drope, who played with us for Hickory Wind until he retired.
Yeah.
He was self-taught and just amazing player.
Yeah.
There's another fella from down around Tilbury that I've met recently, and he's even better.
Is that right?
I don't know if he's schooled in it or not, but he just has all the tricks and great sounds.
Yeah. It's a unique instrument for sure.
Yeah. On the other side of things, the drummers, Derek is just a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got all the moves and nice balance and great endings and beginnings, and really goes back. He goes home and listens to the original and finds out, you know, how it was structured, and then basically plays it the way
I've always been amazed on how. I mean, I was a karaoke guy, so I had the best band in the world. I played exactly the same way every time, right?
Yeah.
But singing with a band, which I've done, is definitely different. Yeah. I've always been amazed on how 3 or 4 people, never mind an orchestra of a bazillion people, take each little piece individually, learn it individually, and then sit down and put it all together, and it comes out like, wow, how did you make that happen? That's just always been that's an incredible talent.
Well, it still amazes us at times. We've some nights we'll say, wow, like we were really joined at the hips tonight, you know, everything was just meshing. And it works particularly well when you learn to play quietly, and when somebody else is taking, like Bruce Dean's a phenomenal lead player. I love his style.
Yeah.
He's a crazy character.
Yeah, he
but I
is.
tell you, he can do some beautiful fills.
He's a cool cat.
Nothing like I've ever had and before. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate him. Don's a great bass player. So I'm just speaking about the own players. They're some of the best I've played with,
Yeah.
in my opinion, just because they've got the versatility. They know
Yeah.
where they're going, but you know, as far as playing with other folks, really haven't had that much exposure.
No.
I used to go play with Gary. Gary Connors.
Oh, right.
Play with Gary Connors every now and then, and Steve Dumont at
Yeah.
the get-togethers. Those are good players.
Yeah.
They were fun.
Steve D's
They
great.
weren't, you know, Gary wasn't particularly polished, but he had a riot when he played.
He sure did.
Yeah. And I just, you know, I love the guy. We used to do the Cam Jam at
Oh, right. I forgot
Kamlaki
about that.
for many years, 20
I
years they
remember
ran that thing. And we were one of the prime runners of that thing with sound and et cetera. And Gary used to MC it all the time.
Yeah.
I miss
I
that
remember
guy.
I emceed it one year.
Yeah, you might have.
And this is back, like I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was Don. He's passed now.
Oh, Don.
Don,
yeah, I know who you meet. His daughter's in the band. Stephanie Aiken.
Yeah.
Don Aiken.
Yeah, Don Aiken, that's right.
Yeah, Stephanie and the Aiken Hearts.
That's right.
I
I
played with Stephanie and the Aiken Hearts for a while.
Is that right?
When she was doing this thing, we'd do it, you know, aside from the other band. Had some fun. She would do like female songs,
Yep.
right? So I had to learn.
Lori Morgan and
yeah, I
stuff
had to
like
learn
that.
Lori Morgan and that kind of stuff. Not songs that we would typically do ourselves.
Yeah. How do you pick? Like, I always ask this question of bands and musicians. Like, I would have a hard time, like, picking songs. It's not what I pick, but what I got to leave out, because there's only so much time, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a set list?
It's a challenge. Well, we have over 300 songs in our master list.
Yeah, that's great.
But we don't touch a lot of those, so after a while, they sort of become, you know, like not low-hanging food anymore. They're like, are we even going to try that?
Yeah.
So most recently, we've just kind of had a get-together and said, you know what, we got to refresh our repertoire. Not because it's bad, it's just because we're getting bored, and we don't want to be so predictable that saying, oh yeah, there's that song, and there's this song, you know. So we don't work off of a set list. We go along with what's going on in the audience.
Yeah.
Now, particularly at the beginning of the set, we'll say, what do we want to start with? And usually somebody's got an idea, and maybe all three of us got ideas, or four of us have ideas. We'll pick
Looks like a
one,
Margaritaville crowd to me.
and we try to make sure we satisfy, especially if they're a dance crowd, make sure there's some slow stuff, make sure there's some intermediate, make sure there's some line dancing, because a lot of single women and guys show up now, and they line dance.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them that, then they're basically sitting there all night not doing anything. If you do too much of that, you got a whole bunch of older folks who want to dance together who don't dance. So it's a real, you got to keep your eye on
It's interesting to me to watch. Like, I remember a few years ago, pre-COVID. Everything's always pre or post-COVID now, right?
That's that benchmark.
But pre-COVID, Jennifer and I came to the Navy dance, or the Navy Club dance.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and she was like, "Come on!" And I'm not a big dancer. You know, not like when I was a young fella, right?
Yeah, I'm
but
the same
she
way.
got me up there, and when I was sitting down, like, that used to be really a thing. Was you went to the dance? That was time you had with your gal, and time to, you know, be a little romantic, and a time to talk and whatever. And I looked at Jennifer. I go, as soon as the song ends, they're standing there waiting for the next song to go. Okay, we can do this one, and away they go.
Yeah, that's the critical point in a band's evening, is moving along from one song to the next.
What's next?
Because if you take more than, and it's a very short period of time. I mean, like
seconds.
10 seconds is stretching it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't know, people are self-conscious about standing on the floor.
Yeah, staring at me, looking at
and
me.
then you're like, oh, okay, which one are we going to do next?
Yeah.
So basically, as we're going through, even if I'm singing, I'm trying to think, where am I going next?
Right.
Call it out, and away you go.
Yeah.
And you keep people on the dance floor. And then after 2 or 3, a lot of them will, they've had
take
enough.
a break.
They take a break.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of move into another
It's an art form.
genre. Yeah, it's a
skill.
It's a skill. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but I count on the guys. Like I said, look, you watch the floor as much as I do. You tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Because when you got 300 songs in a set in a master list.
Yeah.
They aren't all sitting in your brain.
No.
Somebody's got to say, let's do. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because like as many as there are. I mean, when you ask me what song you're going to play next,
Yeah.
I do have a set list in front of me that's got a lot of what we would normally
Sure.
do. So I can quickly peruse and say, well, that one won't work, but I know another one like it and away I can go.
Right.
Because fortunately, I have a pretty good memory for words.
Yeah.
And
You don't have like just there's always got to be a couple of just backups. So if you can't think of something else,
Yeah.
okay, we're doing 5 o'clock somewhere.
yeah, there's ones that we know that we enjoy ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're not too tired of playing it. So
Yeah.
we'll skip into that as long as it's in the right tempo or something.
Yeah.
We don't want to do like if you do more than 3 slow songs together, you're really starting to stretch for the folks that like to move a bit.
Yeah.
So you
I
gotta,
remember when I DJ'd, I would usually do like 2 slow songs an hour.
Yeah.
There's your time.
And
And if
then
they
you-
wanted one more, you could tell. And then
And then
back at it.
I go out at breaks times, and I will actually solicit for, what would you like to hear? Anything we do for you? That's a great advantage because you come back, you know that those songs somebody wants.
right.
And my theory, and I think it's fairly accurate, is that if people go home at the end of the night having heard a couple of songs that they wanted, they appreciate that.
They're happy.
Yeah, they said, hey, they played my stuff,
Yep.
And I, at the
It's
point
like a
now,
shout out on a microphone.
Yeah, like
It's
the other
hey,
night when
nice
you were
to
at
see you.
IBC, I knew the guy out there wanted 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yep.
He was going to request it. I said,
Yep.
let's just do it.
Yeah. And this is for, and
Yeah.
yeah, people appreciate that. It makes them feel good, right?
And you get
and recognized.
They chat with you when you're break. They're like friends in a sense, distance, but they do appreciate.
I know you're genuine about going out to the crowd because, when we saw you the other day, I know you didn't get a chance to come over.
Yeah,
I was going to come over.
I wanted to come over and say hello to you guys.
You
and
kind of messaged me too and said, sorry, I didn't know. Hey, I get it. Trust me.
Somebody grabbed my attention, and I forget who it was, but they chewed my ear off quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm got to be cognizant of how much time we're taking on our breaks too. So
Yeah.
you don't have an unlimited break period.
No. Well, you're getting paid to do a job.
We like to give them, we want to make sure we give them what they paid for.
Yeah, because you guys were like there at IBC like once a month, I think.
We were, this year we had 10 jobs out there. We got one coming up in October.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to play. I like the venue.
It's a great venue.
It's a bit of a haul for us, distance-wise. So it's not, shall we say, the most economical
Sure.
on our ticket.
But you love playing
But
there.
we liked it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love that outdoor venue,
yeah.
and it's a real homey, family-oriented even.
And they've got a good menu and
Great food. And the ice cream's pretty good too.
yeah, the ice cream bar is excellent. Unfortunately, the last 2 times I was there, by the time we packed up, the ice cream bar was shut because I used to like to take a cup and eat it on the way home.
Yeah.
Didn't always work out.
How far do you guys travel? Like, will you go?
The farthest
London?
we've done London a couple of times last year. No, in the last 2 years we've done a couple of gigs in London each year. But that's unusual. A couple of them were conventions that were booked through the Lions Club, and I'm a Lions member in Petrolia.
Oh,
and
okay.
somebody heard of us and heard us at a do we did, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to have you come." So that was, I had an upper hand in that one.
If they're taking care of you, you'll make.
But
the
I was
trip.
playing at another place out in one of the parks. I can't think of the name now. Anyway, a woman came up to me at the end of the night and said, "I really liked your music. Would you think of coming to London?" And I said, "Yeah." It said it's probably going to cost you a little bit more. I said, "Oh, no, I've got a budget for it. I really want to try something." And she's Fanshawe Park.
Oh yeah.
It's a really nice camping place.
Yeah,
Huge.
some
Go across
people
a
I
big
know that
bridge
have a
on a
spot
river
down
and that.
there, yeah.
Yeah, they booked us out there. We had a great time. But that's unusual. I mean, we're not looking to travel anywhere.
No.
Really, there's enough music going on in Sarnia,
You guys are just having fun.
Petrolia, where else do we go? So we got Petrolia, Sarnia, Ipperwash, Wallaceburg.
Yeah.
Nothing too far away.
Yeah.
Because it is a hobby. I mean, we're not, we've got other things to do.
You've done your work, and now you're having some fun.
Yeah.
And It sounds to me too more like, I don't know, what do you enjoy more, the music or the conversation?
Yeah, you know, it's probably it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
And I enjoy both aspects of it. There's a social side to it. The camaraderie within the band is excellent.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, if it weren't, I certainly wouldn't do it because
it's
too much pressure. If you can't get along with 3 other guys, you know, it's
not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It'll show on the stage.
Oh yeah.
And I think, again, going back to like when you said, I don't know what it is. It's you guys, you can tell you're having fun. You're laughing with each other. You're laughing at each other.
Yeah.
You're poking each other.
Yeah.
You're talking to the crowd, and it all just. I think there's just a magic about it when you surround yourself. When you're fortunate enough to discover the right people, and then continue to surround yourself with those magical things, just seem to happen.
Yeah,
right?
It does. Yeah, we played. What was the last time we played quietly? Oh, we were doing a car show, and just the 3 of us in Lambton Meadowview Petroleum.
Oh yeah, right.
Last Sunday.
Yeah.
Because it was a fundraiser.
Yep.
And we had such a great time. We were just 3, and we played so quietly.
Yeah.
In an outdoor venue.
Yeah.
It was only like maybe.
You guys were there last year too.
Yeah, maybe only 10 or 12 of the folks that lived there sitting in the audience. The rest of them were wandering around looking at cars. We had a great time. We were just like cruising, but just low key. Everything was sounding smooth and nice, and it was a very enjoyable afternoon.
Yeah, and you're kind of background music there. There's people right in the front.
Yeah,
the rest
we played
just
some
noise
stuff that
going.
went way back because we knew these folks are gonna.
That's the thing about a car.
Some Mills Brothers, like cab driver.
Right. Well, that's the thing about a car show. I always like to say I have a '98 Firebird, which is an older car, but we're talking like 50s and 60s, and those people remember listening to that music cruising in their 57 Chevy or whatever.
Exactly.
Right,
And fortunately, because of my previous experience with my dad, like he was playing post-war tunes.
Yeah, right.
Would be Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, right.
Eddie Arnold. Go back and think of all Dean Martin.
The Rat Pack.
Yep, all of that kind of stuff. Pennies from Heaven. I mean, these are songs that way back.
Sounds like my
dad.
I
could still do those on
piano.
a dime of ass, and it always surprises people. You know that song? I said, I could tell you the story, but trust me, I played it many times.
What was that like? You talk about your dad being in the war, like even somebody my age, like I had nobody in my family that was in any of the wars. How was that growing up? Like dad's away and
No, he was in the war prior to me being born.
Okay.
Yeah, he was out. I think he was 27 when he got married, or 24, something like that. My mother was 19.
Oh, wow.
She was a child bride.
Yeah.
And I was the firstborn.
Yeah.
So
you're the oldest then.
Yeah. He never had any, and he didn't talk about it. He was on a.
Yeah.
He was on a. I don't know what you call it. It was one of these ships that follows the convoy.
Okay.
And never saw any action. He said only once did a torpedo go by the bow. So had it been not for missing that, he might not have been around. But no, he had nothing really. Never talked about it. I don't think he had any traumatic experiences in the war himself. But when he came back home, because he'd been, like I said, telegraph operator, he had a ready-made job with the railroad at that time.
Right. Did you learn Morse code then?
No, he tried to teach me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I used to.
He got me doing some cleanup. Like we used to. The station agent would always get the station, with the house with it, and then Foots Bay was the place I remember growing up mostly. There was the station, and then above it was the residence. It was all one building, and he'd have me go down. He said, "I want to, if you want to make some money, this when I was going to buy a guitar.
Right.
You clean this, you clean the floors and all that. So I was the house cleaner. It was a pretty simple job, but he was making me do something, right?
Yeah.
I was getting paid for something.
He was making you earn your keep.
Yeah, and so that's that's how I got involved in that. But he encouraged me because he was playing with my uncle and some other people from town to learn the guitar. And so a friend of his lent me his acoustic guitar, and that's how I started playing. Mm-hmm. And then basically I did teach myself fingering chords.
Yeah.
But the music teacher that I had eventually got, he pushed me a little bit further, you know. But really, all of the stuff I've learned has been post lessons, you know, from other players and just watching.
I've always been jealous of a guitar player because I tried picking it up when I was, again, in my 20s. And Ronnie Frey actually taught me a little bit. And then we lived in the same building at that time. And one time I came back and I didn't practice, right? And until about an hour before my lesson.
Right.
And then it would go, and he finally said, "You need to come back and see me when you're ready to practice."
Yeah.
I never went back.
It was funny.
I wish I had.
It reminded me of my son. I got him into piano lessons originally.
Oh yeah.
I even went out and bought a keyboard,
Yeah.
electronic keyboard, so he could have it. Because I had a piano at home, but it was, you know, one of those old stand-up.
Stand-up, yeah.
So I got an Ensoniq back in the day. That was a brand that's got bought out, but they were a good keyboard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He learned that, but then he said he wanted to learn guitar. And he started taking lessons from, what's his name? Terry Titian.
Yep.
He was taking lessons from Terry, but I noticed he wasn't doing much, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, he comes in and he shows me what to do, then he leaves."
So do this, and this.
Yeah, and then he goes out for a smoke.
Right.
So
that sounds like Terry.
So I said, "Okay, well maybe that's not the best way for you to learn." So he stopped taking lessons and learned on his own, and he plays a fairly decent guitar now. Nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
It's the same as me, just a basic player.
Yeah.
I've never considered myself a virtuoso at all. I mean, I'm a rhythm player. I like playing rhythm. That's where I get my enjoyment. I like to create something for someone else to play over top of.
Right.
And I'm happy with that.
I think I learned 4 basic chords.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how to do it now. But it's one of those things though, like you know, guitar. You can be around a campfire. You can throw it in the back of the car and take it with you. It's easy to take around. I was always the keyboard player because my dad played piano. Right?
Oh yeah.
I've got his old Casio actually.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Still,
yeah, nice. Yeah.
But I've never seen you don't really have keys in the band, do you? Like, was that ever a consideration?
Well, for a period of time, we had lost, I think, who was replacing? Our steel player. I'm not sure if it was just about after he retired or if he had a period of time that he was not available. We had Ben Seatek join us.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Ben is a quick study. He didn't take any time at all.
He's a great
So
player.
he did maybe 3 or 4 weeks with Ben.
I think I remember that. That was a while ago. But
yeah, it was.
He's still up in Petrolia, I think.
Yeah, he is. I still see him quite often. He's, you know, I go to Petrolia for a bit, and he's got Ben, Mr. Benz, that whole block. Is him, his wife and his mother, and brother. They all own that block, or they run it. Good clothing. Buy a lot of stuff. In fact, I think I might have bought this shirt from him.
Okay, there you go.
He always gets some classy stuff. I like what he's got there. Yeah, so no, that's the only time we've actually made a slight switch up, and it was, you know, out of necessity. Back in those days, though, we weren't playing nearly as often. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we had to grab them, you know, every week. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have a very, very poor recollection of the gigs that we did back in those days.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly don't know. It's not like today I've got a spreadsheet and I can tell you exactly what we did for the last 5 years.
Right,
you know?
it's all, you didn't write it all down before.
Yeah, because, you know, contacts and numbers and
right.
things like that, which are help when you're trying to, you know, book again or ask people if they're interested.
Are you still doing much riding on the motorcycle? We've never ridden together, by the way. I don't think we've ever
I've
gotten
been
together.
wanting to come out with your Ride for Respect group, and one of these days I'll make it.
Yeah.
There's another group that my wife and I had become friends with, Joel Salvatore and his significant other started a little group called Dash and Dine.
Oh yeah, I've heard you talk about that before.
So, you know, we go somewhere.
You do that out of Point Edward, don't you?
We just go wherever to, you know, we pick a spot, somebody, and usually Joe or somebody else in the group says, "Oh, let's try," you know, like we've gone to Ipperwash. We went to Pancor 2 weeks ago.
I used to call it Pain Court.
Yeah, Pancor. There's a little bar go down there.
It's a great spot.
So we'll meet somewhere, typically either the LCBO at Wyoming or out in Guthrie Park or something, and then we'll take off.
Right.
And we all go, and then we sometimes all ride back together, but in my case, I'm heading a different direction, so I'll say goodbye and we'll meet up. That's the only rides that I've been doing regularly. Haven't taken any long trips for a long time.
No.
I've gone many times to California and back.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that like? That must be a
great
fun trip. If
I have a
doing
brother that lives in San Diego, so I had a destination. I used to go meet him, then we'd go meet a friend of his in north of there in Salem, Washington?
Okay.
Washington State, and ride around with his friend, and then I'd head back home, and he would.
So you'd ride all the way there?
Oh yeah. I did it on. I had Sheila. Oh. Sheila had a little 800, that Volusia.
Yeah.
I did it twice on that Volusia.
Really? Wow. How long is that to do?
Oh, I can't even remember, but it's several days of riding.
Yeah.
If you want, unless you're a crazy like 1,000-miler, and I'm not. I've only ever done 1,000 miles once in my life, and that was way over the top. I would never make the Iron Butt rally.
Yeah, I hear you. I did the East Coast in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, we've been out
so
to.
That's about as long
Sheila
as
and I have
can
been
do.
out to the East Coast a couple of times.
Yeah.
2 up. Never gone on 2 bikes. Just when I had my Yamaha.
Yeah.
Rode on it. We went up Quebec and Ottawa a couple of years ago. Have trailed the bikes out to Arizona a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
And then toured around like Lukenbach, Texas, and stuff like that. Some fun things.
Yeah.
But,
you ever done the Tail of the Dragon thing?
No. One of the things I might eventually get to do if I don't wait too long.
Yeah. I don't know. I know a lot of my buddies that have done it, and I'm just like, I don't know. I got a big, heavy bike too, and they're like, no, you just go at your own speed.
Yeah, you don't have to race.
They're like, you've watched too many YouTube videos on it, and I'm like, okay, maybe.
Yeah. No, if you're not caught up in a lot of traffic, and I don't know how busy that place is, you could take it at your own pace, and you'd quite enjoy it because you get into a rhythm, and
it's like 11 miles or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a huge distance, but it's
curvy.
A lot of moves.
Yeah.
Good time to practice.
What haven't you done yet that is on, do you have a list?
Well.
Like jumping out of an airplane?
No. Got a couple of brothers have done that. That's not for me.
No.
No, no parasailing, nothing like that.
No.
I want to keep my feet up. And here I am, a motorcycle rider, thinking, that's too dangerous.
Well,
you know what I mean?
We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've had a few close calls on the bike that it's woke me up, but not scared me out of my pants. But no, the only thing I'd like to do yet is I'd still like to get back to California at least one more time.
Yeah.
My brother still lives there, and it's I like San Diego as a city. It's just a gorgeous place.
I've never been that way.
Yeah.
Vegas.
I highly recommend it if you get a chance. I've been through Vegas on the bike, because sometimes I go that way.
That'd be dry.
I go through Vegas and then head down.
Oh yeah.
California.
Yeah, because California's only like 3 hours from Vegas, I think.
It's a doable trip. Yeah. Other than that, I have a brother in Spain now. 2 brothers that live in Spain.
Oh, what do they do there?
They just retired and decided to travel. And one of them's lived in Mexico for a while, and then decided that Spain would be an interesting place.
Yeah.
So they're both over in a place called Malaga.
Oh.
It's right on the Mediterranean.
Nice.
So I went over there 2 years ago with a friend, and we rode bicycles. We couldn't take our own bikes, like our own road bikes, so we rented bikes over there. I'd like to go back there again. But as far as, like bucket list, no, I don't really have a must-do thing.
You've had a pretty fun life.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's been good.
I think I lived a charmed life, really, honestly. Yeah, I kind of look around and say, man, God, how did I deserve to get so well treated in life, So many people have had a rough time.
Well, you treat people, every time I talk to you, you always, like say I first knew you through my dad, right? You knew me when I was a little.
Yeah, I met you probably when you were managing at Two Amigos.
Oh yeah, I was there for a while too.
Stan Mead.
When you came back around with that, yeah. That was,
That's going back a while.
I got to look over my timeline here too.
I don't even remember when that was.
That was 14 years ago when I started.
Okay.
Since I've been there.
Yeah, okay. So 2000 and
2008 or something. When I
Yeah,
started
somewhere in
there.
that. I think it was in that 2005, the
Yeah.
range, somewhere in there.
That's right.
We did some jobs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just cruising. You're just cruising
Yeah,
along and having
so
fun.
I've got my farm. I'm on the farm, of course, and I.
So I was going to say, so you have a farm out there?
Yeah, a 50-acre farm.
Yeah. What do you farm?
Well, I did farm it myself when I was working, believe it or not, which seems like strange. You think maybe you'd farm it when you're retired, but I farmed it while I was working professionally at Nova.
Yeah.
And it was soybean and wheat.
Oh.
Alternate. Because I didn't have big equipment, I basically split the acreage in half and did 25 in wheat and 25 in beans, and then just kept swapping.
Wow.
So 25 acres sounds like a lot, but it's doable.
Yeah.
And then when I retired, of all things, I said, you know what? I'm tired of searching around for someone to plant, someone to combine. And a neighbor of mine had approached me one day when I was in the field and said, if you ever decide you don't want to farm it yourself anymore, let me know. I'd be interested in renting it.
Right.
So I said, hey, you want it? I'm ready to give it up. And so he's done it since. And he does a great job.
Wow.
He's a much better farmer than I ever was.
I wouldn't even know where. I have trouble spelling
He is
farm.
taking the crop, the yields are great, and he looks after it. He knows when to do things. I mean, that's the trick of farming, is to know when to do things. So I would never know. He always, when he sprays exactly when he should.
Yeah.
It's
definitely a science.
Oh
there.
yeah, it's all up here.
That's awesome.
He goes and looks and said, and he comes back, and he's got equipment that he can literally do everything I would do in a week. He would do in a day.
There you go. So he's the right guy for the job.
Yeah, and he's a good, and we agreed on a cost thing, and I said, you know what? I'm not in it to make a lot of money. I want the farm to stay active.
Yeah.
And I tiled it years
that.
ago, so that was a big expense,
okay.
but it made sense, because that's heavy clay out there,
Right.
Don Euphemia. So over the years, he's come to me and says, John, I think it's time I gave you more money. I said, okay.
Darn.
Yeah, darn. Anyways,
Right.
No, he's been really fair, and
That's good.
I couldn't have picked a better co-partner to do that in. So.
John, thank you so much. This has been,
it's been
I got to
enjoyable.
tell you, I've been looking forward to this, because I know I've had you on the show before, but it was always that 10-minute quick thing.
Yeah.
And I've been looking forward to having a conversation with you. So I appreciate you taking the time to drive into town here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for inviting me, because it was kind of fun to reminisce.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of territory.
Yeah, we
that
did.
I wasn't even.
There you go. That's what it's all about. So there you go. Click the like, the love, but click the share button so we can share John's story and everybody else here. But as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. We'll see you next time right here on the show. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
That's it. Nothing to it, John.
Good.